two interesting cases from the gastroenterology department and hepatology, National Guard Hospital. We selected two interesting cases actually. I wish that we should have more juniors with us and learn more about these cases. The first case is, we'll expect apart from one lower GI case. So we'll start with the lower GI case, then we'll present our GI case. The first lower GI case was presented by our fellow, Sham Jihani. So it's a Jihani team today. Don't be surprised. And I have this very interesting case, inshallah.
Our first case today is a 20 years old male who is medically free, presented with abdominal pain and diarrhea. Our first patient is 28 years old male who presented with diarrhea and abdominal pain for the past 5 months. His diarrhea was prescribed as 4 to 5 times per day, which was watery, without blood, occasional night symptoms, with no change over time and frequency. The amount of diarrhea episode was described as small to moderate amount, with no urgency or fecal incontinence. His abdominal pain, prescribed by the patient, has dull mainly in the left lower quadrant, started at the same time of diarrhea, 3 to 4 out of 10 and severity without radiation. There was no clear aggravating factor. His abdominal pain, though, was partially relieved by defecation. There was no change in pain character or severity with changing the patient position or movement. There was associated symptoms, weight loss of 15 kg, which was unintentional, also fatigue and decrease in appetite. He denied any history of vomiting, melena or fresh blood per rectum, abdominal distension, difficulty in swallowing or odynophagia, alteration from diarrhea to constipation or jaundice. Patient also denied any history of documented fever, joint pain or swelling, skin changes or ulcers, cough or shortness of breath, eye symptoms, or previous similar presentation. He has not had any recent or remote travel or contact with sick or new medication use. His past medical and family history was unremarkable, with no family history of IBD, GI malignancy, or TB. He is single, officer in the military, lives in Baden. He has regular contact with animals, mainly sheep, non-smoker, with no alcohol consumption. He denied any history of high-risk behavior. He is not on any medication or herbs without any known allergy. So, in summary, our patient is 28 years old male with 5 months history of diarrhea, abdominal pain, and associated with 15 kg weight loss.
I will stop at this stage. Any questions from the team? Any audience? Any questions?
Stop with fasting or
nothing to do with fasting. Nothing to do with fasting. It's not active. Was there also oral ulcers?
no what?
No oral ulcers. Sorry? No flushes. No flushes. No questions? TB and Mr. TB?
No history of, no personal or family history of TB or pregnancy or IBD. He denied.
No. So it's by definition chronic diarrhea for 5 months. Okay. So shall we proceed? Any questions or suggestions at this stage? No? Yes, please.
No recent travel history. No travel history.
No travel history, no. There is no travel history. No diabetes or hypertension, is not any indication, nothing like that. Okay?
So we will proceed to physical examination. His vital signs was a remarkable report from borderline elevated heart rate of 97. He was comfortable, not in pain. He appears though malnourished, with no sclerolectrus, poor oral hygiene, with no palpable lymph nodes, no skin changes or abnormality, with normal general examination. His gastrointestinal examination showed normal contour without surgical scar, soft, mild, tender left lower quadrant with normal liver span. Spleen was not apparent. Active bowel sound with negative shifting dullness. His perianal examination was unremarkable without any skin tags, hemorrhoids, or fissure, without any palpable masses, and negative for blood. This is his initial laboratory result.
Okay, but let's finish the initial lab work.
Yeah. As you can see, it is significant for decreased hemoglobin and hematocrit with low sodium, potassium, urea, and albumin. His stool studies was negative for stool culture, ovoparasite, C. diff, but it was markedly elevated fecal kalium protein.
Any questions at this stage so far? Suggestions? We have a young man who's had diarrhea for 5 months and with significant weight loss. And this is his initial lab work. This is different profiles.
Apart from mildly elevated ESR and LDH, his laboratory was above.
The LDH is very significant.
Which is how, yeah.
3.0. So, again, malignancy will
Is it pregnancy as it goes with
of his weight loss and then
celiac negative, wasn't it?
We will come to that.
Yes.
Any adenopathy?
I don't know. No, there's no impact at all. LDH will time, but there's no impact at all. Any suggestion, possible diagnosis? It's, yeah, any suggestions? Any differential at this stage? You can't suggest a volunteer any differential at this stage? Lymphoma, okay.
It's not usual way of
Okay.
inflammatory bowel disease is possible, but high protectant, like Crohn's or whatever, especially at pain and weight loss and anemia.
So we'll think about malignancy, IBD,
Yes.
tuberculosis,
Correct.
Brucellosis. Okay. Why?
So you have to rule it out in any patient with chronic diarrhea who had,
Okay.
I think it's possible, I mean, you have to put it in the differential.
No, not differential. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Anything else? Yes. Great. Urine crime, usually they have particularly diagnosed as very bad for diarrhea. It's not having that type of diarrhea. Okay.
So this is his colonoscopy.
Can you give the line? Because yeah, it can be done with that. Describe the regional parts.
As you can see here, we have well-demarcated, shallow ulcer, the size is around 2 centimeters. His full colonoscopy examination of the cecum was unremarkable otherwise. The right is
Only this one.
this ulcer was found in the rectum.
and then silicone.
Sorry?
About the elucidum.
No, it's in the rectum.
And the rectum.
It's in the rectum.
Yeah.
It's only rectum. Like possible cerebral ulcer.
Usually splitting comes with constipation rather than...
And sometimes they can manipulate
You
themselves.
have to, without also seeing it, CV can look like this.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So
This is the histology of the rectal ulcer.
for the juniors, not for national guard. Yeah.
There is fibroblast.
Sorry?
Fibroblast. There's a lot of fibroblast.
Fibroblast, okay.
So just a look at this alios.
Oh,
This alios. So the rectal ulcer.
so the rectal ulcer, okay. This is the diagnosis. Okay.
This one.
Yes, please.
Full of lymphocyte. Looks like lymphocytic filtration or the section.
Okay.
So in lymphoma or some other lymphoid, something similar should be considered.
Okay. Any other suggestions? So we can keep for now. Else? Yes.
Yeah, you know, SRU does not cause weight loss. And weight loss is not seen usually in pseudo-directal ulcer.
Okay.
And I think it may work to repeat biopsy to rule out malignancy like in carcinomas.
Does it look like malignant ulcer, that one?
Well, there is no infiltration of the malignant cells. Not seen malignant cells.
So the pathologist didn't comment about possible malignancies. Pseudorectal ulcer, okay, possible, but anything striking with this inclusion? But
This inclusion in the middle.
anything there?
Yes.
That's it. That's inclusion. Okay, so that's inclusion. So this is probably the list of all. CMV,
CMV or EBV?
or
EBV.
so this is the
This is the immunohistochemical stain for the same biopsy, which is the related cytology.
okay. Any pathologist here?
No, this is Curtis Wood. This is they come with people with meal salvation.
This is a very good pickup, sir. This is a very good.
Our first pause here for the patients who are until now are immunocompetent for us. We looked up in the literature for the serious infection in immune-competent patients. There was this meta-analysis from 1980 to 2013. They were able to collect 44 patients. Only 10 of them was free of all comorbidities, and which showed 50% spontaneous remission rate. And this is lapsed 3 days after admission.
So CMV can occur also in immune-competent persons, not necessarily that is HIV. Wait, we'll see. No, this is
HIV negative?
we haven't done it yet.
His Celix urology was unremarkable. ANA, ANA, spiral, Brucella, quantiferon, schistosoma was also unremarkable. Patient underwent upper endoscopy, which showed, unfortunately, the picture is not clear here. Actual anything right.
Just very mild gastritis, mild gastritis in the entrance. Is that right? And this is the biopsy from the stomach. Yes, you're right. That's again. Can you have a pointer? Yes. This is the cryptosporia. You can see it in the gastric. Okay. So it's having cryptosporia up and down. Okay.
We elected to do imaging for this patient, which shows the short segment of lower rectum thickening with no sizable significant lymph node suggestive of malignancy, though his lower cuts of non-bases showed ground glass nodules. This is his chest X-ray, which is basically more or less unremarkable for any clear findings. His HRCT showed bilateral dependent subpleural ground glass and airspace opacities in the tiny nodules. This is his results, official results of his biopsy. Confirmed cryptosporidum, gastric and random color, CMV collapses in the rectal ulcers.
So this is the initial. We have relieved patients with cryptosporidium CMV, cryptosporidium in the stomach as well as his colon. It's in the area for 5 months. Yeah, we'll just go ahead for more investigations.
Patient came out positive with very low CD4 of 5, and quantitative CMV was also elevated. So the hospital course, he was examined officially with of the team. It was unremarkable. His MRI rate was normal. He was started on IV ganciclovir, then switched to valganciclovir, started on Bactrim for presumed PCV infection, and after that he started on highly active antiretroviral viral infection. So just a few points in the HIV patients. Most common cause of bacterial infection in advanced HIV is C. diff. Most common viral is CMV. Cryptosporidium per se can be treated with supportive measures and starting with treatment of antiretroviral therapy. In regard to CMV in HIV patients, blood test, antigen, antibody culture, or PCR is not recommended in such patients. Histological findings of intranuclear and intracytoplasmic inclusion are the hallmark of diagnosis. Treatment by HIV specialists usually suggested from 21 to 42 days or until signs of resolution. This graph showed common causes of diarrhea in HIV patients. Initially with zero conversion. After this drop of CD4 over years, we start to see the bacterial, viral, and fungal infection. After starting with antiretroviral treatment, diarrhea usually will be caused by the medication itself. So in patients who are already known with HIV and already on medication side effects nowadays are more common than infectious causes.
In the history back, did you get any risk factor?
89.
He's single, he's 29, which is a little bit old.
It seems that he got the infection at least 10 years
Yes.
ago. Because
Yeah.
the HIV would deplete 50 to 100 cells of CD4 per year. So.
But you know, sometimes it's very strictly this history of infection, because I remember a long time ago actually a case where the Bedouin came from Oman. He's real Bedouin, know nothing about anything. He came with disseminated TB. We found it's having HIV. And he never traveled. He's married and two wives in a small remote area of Oman. So by digging the history of Mormon, we find that his second wife, from he married to her, she had transfusion, blood transfusion during her pregnancy, during her labor. This was in 84, 85, something like that. And he get married to her, and the baby before transfusion was negative. But after that, both kids they have HIV, and he get infection from this one. So that's the has to be there. We are busy. I'm sure doing something.
Our patient presented around this time, around 2 years, and very low disease.
Great. Any questions? Thank you very much for this case. Thank you very much.
In our second case is the viral image for this. We will have a lot. I hope that and immunologist with us today, so will highlight the role of immunities and the GI or the gut. So Dr. Abdullah will present for us under a case of almost similar presentation with a different scenario. Dr. Abdullah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Abdullah Fahd. I'm a gastroenterology fellow. I'm going to present this case where we encountered it with Dr. Alwan in National Guard Hospital. So this is a 50-year-old female known to have ulcerative colitis. She's also known to have child A liver cirrhosis, most likely secondary to autoimmune hepatitis, where she presented and referred to National Guard Hospital for the management of HCC, where she underwent multiple sessions of local regional therapy, where it ended up by cadaveric liver transplant on April 2019. She's also known to have diabetes mellitus type 2. Her chief complaint upon presentation was severe gastric pain, nausea, and vomiting. Wait for the management of liver cirrhosis and HCC and high alpha-fetoprotein, where she underwent multiple sessions, including TACE and TARE. She had a follow-up imaging which showed a residual disease in segment 7, and she underwent a successful cadaveric liver transplant on 26th of April 2019. So during her follow-up of liver transplant in around September 2019, so 5 months from her transplant, the patient complained of 2 weeks history of severe epigastric pain, aggravated by eating, not radiating, no relieving factors associated with significant nausea and vomiting towards the last days of her presentation. She started to vomit everything she eats. She also had a background of chronic mild occasional watery non-bloody diarrhea. She denied fever, chills, rigors, she denied skin changes, she also denied GI bleeding. So her past medical history included type 2 diabetes, non-insulin dependent. She was also diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in '99, but no much information about her ulcerative colitis background. She also had child A liver cirrhosis with FCC, and she underwent, as I mentioned, cadaveric liver transplant. Her medications upon presentation were tacrolimus 5.5 milligram, prednisolone 25 milligram, esomeprazole 20 milligram, mesalazine 1000 milligram daily, nystatin oral wash, and she was initially on Cellcept mycophenolate 750 BID, but stopped and shifted to sirolimus.
If you don't mind, Dr. Abdullah, can we just before we go to the examination, an appreciate transplant patient with this presentation, when she presented, she had more of upper GI symptoms, severe nausea, vomiting. She cannot even tolerate fluid, and the last 3 days she had a watery diarrhea. What's coming to your thought or mind as a presentation? The infection, yes.
Steroid.
Steroid, yes.
Was the favored very fast course?
We were when you remember, this is an autoimmune liver disease as origin for liver disease. It was poorly controlled. At the age of almost 38, she she did liver cirrhosis because of the poor tolerance to this immune suppression and autoimmune therapy. So we were very careful after we stopped the MMF to taper the steroid fastly, so otherwise she would reject.
No, what he's saying is that maybe rapid because of vomiting or whatever, she get adrenal insufficiency causing the pain.
No, but her prednisone is 25. Yeah, it's not that, we did not taper it to adrenal doses. Any other thought?
I think the gastric empty is a possibility, especially if she's vomiting something has been there for 2 days or 3 days. Or the gastric empty, not because that's severe pain, but the vomiting and loss of weight always can be related to the gastric empty. Especially she had taste and hair affecting.
Just to add, maybe it's irrelevant, when they dissect for transplantation, they found the tumors invading the diaphragm, so they take part of the diaphragm. So.
I mean, if they take part of the diaphragm, there is something like herniation, this is because of the
Bacterial overgrowth can be bacterial overgrowth.
I think also this lady is deeply inhibited. She is immunocompromised completely with tacrolimus. So first thing also as differential, all kind of opportunistic infection should be considered, viral, fungal, etc.
I will add, so this is the right setting for PTLD after transplantation. Within the first year, she's
حاجة ماشي تشارك أتكلم.
أنا مباشر.
أنا تطلع 5
لا تخصصي في
Anyway, so go to the examination. Her vital signs were fairly normal. significant organic gangliositis. I'm going to go rapidly over her investigations. Her CBC was almost normal with WBC of 9.6, hemoglobin of 113, platelets of 121, and an INR of 1.02. Renal functions were also fairly normal. LFTs were also normal. And glucose was normal. Serology showed positive CMV antigenemia and also positive EBV IBD of 238. And she also had a positive PCR for CMV at 2041. So this is her EGD. This is maybe more clear images.
Can you use the pointer?
I'm not sure if you can see this area here, and also
Plus this area here.
here, and also here. These areas were all, majority of them were in the body of the stomach. This is also parts of the duodenum.
This is the first part, and this is the second part of the duodenum.
And actually the color is right, it's yellowish. It's abnormal. It's not due to the light.
And the eye,
No,
This is the real color.
this is the real color of the duodenum. It's actually clear. And also
By the way, this is after flush. I thought, like what Dr. Khalid mentioned, I thought this is maybe she was taking a contrast or milk or something. We flushed it to remain the same color.
dark yellowish, prominent villi with
This is a duodenal cap.
Yeah, ulcerations in the throat.
Saad, are you still insisting in that diagnosis ولا تبي تنسى؟
لا ما بنسى. لا. Did she have HCC invading the stomach also when they did the transplant? Or
No, it was only there.
لا ما بنسى.
usually BTLD infecting most of the time the colon rather than the upper GI. Yeah, definitely.
Any other thought? قبل ما طيب اوكي Professor Hussein and the others, senior colleagues. Yeah. If you see this one and you flushed it, would you bother to only biopsy or do something else other than the biopsy? طبعا هي the money come from not the biopsy, honestly. It's from the duodenal aspect, and I will show you shortly just what we, it's a surprise that we get for.
So before we go to the biopsy results, this is a PET scan, which only showed some uptake in the antrum and body of the stomach. Otherwise, normal metabolic uptake in the rest of the body. Again, any more thoughts before we proceed to the final diagnosis?
Sorry, PET scan was positive.
There was
Unremarkable from high tracer in the sweat around the ulcer of the stomach. But it wasn't like there was no lymph node, no nothing, no uptake in any like.
What's the redness in the pancreas or where that one?
It's I did
This was from
it's the stomach. It's the high tracer around the ulcer.
What's in the left eye?
Maybe it was a plaster. It wasn't a pathology.
Yes, with using indicarbine or insulin blue dye spray may make difference during exhibition.
You mean and
during endoscopy, spray dye, indicarbine or insulin blue.
No.
Spray from endoscopy, I mean.
Endoscopy help usually in relating dysplasia or something, but will not help you much in. There is a definite pathology because there's definite pathology.
So this is the biopsy results. Probably a bit clear on the screen. If anyone can help us Histopathology Day. So as Dr. mentioned, the hallmark of this pathology slide was excessive lymphocytic infiltrates throughout the gastric ulcer biopsy, and those lymphocytes were positive for CD20, which is hallmark of diffuse dark B-cell lymphoma, which comes post-transplant lymphoproliferative. So it was EBV negative post-transplant. As I said, diffuse dark B-cell lymphoma, non-germinal center subtype. The antral biopsy also showed them, which didn't have an ulcer, by the way, but it was just a random biopsy that showed also an EBV positive lymphoproliferative disorder. So these biopsies were positive for CD20, CD79, and negative for CD4, CD6. And also the
okay. هذا طبعا الجاستريك بايوسي. Are we then what's the duodenal aspirated biopsy? What we are expecting؟ يعني احنا عرفنا نص المشهد. What?
Some sort of this funny organism like Cryptosporidium, all this stuff, isosclera.
Maybe a bit funnier. A bit funnier.
طبعا في do you have the live video? Can you play that?
So obviously a dancing work is the duodenal aspirates.
طبعا الduodenal aspirate.
This is also from the duodenal aspirate. I know I've been discussing, but bear with us. This is a nice cut from the duodenal biopsy, which showed multiple stages of the strongyloid. Like you can see here, this is egg stage. Here is a larvae stage, and probably somewhere, if you look, you can find a worm. This is also eggs all over. I'm trying to find the worm here.
What is the reveal count, by the way?
It wasn't. I think it was
So the diagnosis from the pathologist was strongyloid endonitis. So the patient received 4 doses of rituximab.
Before that, if you don't mind, Dr. Abdullah.
Sure.
طبعا احنا when we deal with this patient, we don't see a lot of GI patients. We always see them from transplant hepatology point of view. But the way she presented to me in the clinic, she was too sick. To extent that she cannot even her saliva, she cannot swallow her saliva. So I take her to the emergency. Immediately we scope her. When I scoped her, I sent for also, at the same time she was having this diarrhea, so we sent the stool. Do you have the stool? The stool was also full of Necator americanus, Strangoilid, and Caelostoma duodenalis. She had 3 bugs, all of them resistant to the usual antiprotozoa. So the team continued.
So patient after that received 4 doses of rituximab. The dose is 592, and the patient was also started on ivermectin for her strongyloid infection. This is her follow-up EGD after 4 doses of rituximab.
This is the area, if I can show you, I don't have a pointer. The ulcer, you remember that it's in this area, and she was having an ulcer around this area. So the ulcer is healing almost completely. This is almost 8 weeks after her initial endoscopy.
So a couple of points on PTLD. So the incidence in PTLD post-liver transplant is 2 to 10%, ranging from 2 to 3% in adults and more than 10% in the pediatrics. It's usually related to EBV infection or mainly in EBV negative recipients of EBV positive donors. PTLD is a clinically heterogeneous presentation, which makes the diagnosis quite difficult. A single site were involved in the central nervous system, GI or lung, and a retrospective study of 6 or 5 liver transplant recipients. 20 of them developed PTLD, 55% had cervical, abdominal or thoracic lymphadenopathy, where 25% had a portal mass and 15% had a gastrointestinal mass. This is the meta-analysis of some studies which gives you a predictive factors of PTLD, where you can see that majority of the patients in these studies were pediatric, but this study suggested that sclerosing cholangitis and monoclonal gammopathy is a predictive factor. So one study showed that hepatitis C is not a predictive factor, where it was thought to be. Also another study showed monoclonal gammopathy and viral cirrhosis as predicted. Another study showed alcohol cirrhosis. And the only meta-analysis where a lot of adults patients, you can see that 80% of the patients were adults, thought that tacrolimus had an effect on PTLD. And chemotherapy is currently the standard of choice of treatment for PTLD, and there is a variety of regimens, but R-CHOP is the most widely used regimen, including rituximab. And withdrawal of immunosuppression can be considered. However, we need to think about the risk of graft rejection. We can think, but not in renal transplant patients, but mainly in liver transplant patients. And decreasing the immunosuppression or withdrawing them showed some effect on the proliferative phase of the tumors. However, antiviral therapy have showed no effect on PTLD. However, one study showed that foscarnet had decreased the risk of, prevented the development of PTLD. However, more studies are needed in this matter. And thank you very much for listening. And thank you.
We are not finished before you clap your hand. So we have two problems now. We have a PTLD and we have a diarrhea with protozoal infection for the junior. Do you think it's related or unrelated? ذهب محمد إلى المدرسة وجاءني من السوق. Both of them is a right sentence, but does it relate to each other or not? So what we miss in the history here, we did not take. There is a very nice history, probably Saad will tell us from their side, because you have something in King Faisal regarding this patient. I will tell you now. Should not have a special travel. So when we get this special, we know this video related to this T-cell immunosuppression, but when we found this protozoal infection, we go back to the patient, we take more history. She denied any history of exposure. So what we have done, we trace the donor. So the donor kidney and I think the lung was taken by King Faisal, and we took the liver. So surprisingly, all the recipient, the same donor, which is I think is an Indian origin or Sri Lankan origins.
Yes, it was presented 3 months ago actually by the military hospital.
Yeah. So I got, at least from King Faisal, we know that the message that all the people receive the organ from this, all the recipients receive, like eye, lung, they get the same problem. So it was the donor origin from this protozoa.
Thank you so much for mentioning that. As usual, very impressive presentations, very interesting cases were there for this. And we have actually 10 minutes presentation of we will treat you for responsible artists. Then after that, we will conclude. Is it mic or you?
لا I think صوتي واضح صح؟
لا
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I know some of you may ask why Novartis Oncology speak to expert gastroenterology clinician. This is a little bit weird, but we want to learn from your experience. We know about our therapy area, but you are the expert clinicians. So help me to deliver best outcome, best practice to the patient today, please. What we believe as an Novartis Oncology that we have unseen serious condition. Imagine that we have a family with telefreak line and they want to enjoy their time, but suddenly there is unseen serious condition here, not seen. Like a patient with very common non-specific symptoms came at your clinic complaining from very usual symptoms, and you are doing all the workup, and all the workup is free, and some of patients labeled as IBS patients. This is our objective today, to early diagnose very, I will not say common, because it's a little bit non-common disease, which is neuroendocrine tumor. What is neuroendocrine tumor? Simply, a neuroendocrine tumor comes from neuroendocrine tumor cell diffused at all the body, but it's concentrated on the GIT system. If we have some numbers that give us some reflections about the reality and incidence and prevalence of those type of tumors, can you guess how many patients in Saudi Arabia, if we are calculating that we have incidence per year, 50 patients per million. And if we calculated the prevalence of 350 patients per million, if you multiply the incidence and the prevalence here of those type of tumors, you can find simply that we have 7,000 patients across the kingdom. This is based on the global incidence and prevalence. 7,000 patients of neuroendocrine tumor in Saudi Arabia. If we are talking about the incidence, those tumors are the secondly common after colorectal cancer. And those type of tumors took like up to 10 years from the onset of the symptoms until diagnosis. And if we are talking about the potential of those tumors to be malignant, almost 50% of those patients has the potential to be metastasized, which is reflect the malignancy of those type of tumors. What are the common signs and symptoms? If you are seeing a patient at your clinic, with those type of symptoms, those type of very common symptoms, can you expect that those patients might be neuroendocrine tumor? Any suggestions?
Sure. Flushing, yes, flushing,
yeah.
Water diarrhea.
Yes. Our objective today to think about those type of tumors to put as one of the differential diagnoses at our mindset. But we have two clinical clues. Those symptoms must be persistent and must be uncontrolled. Because you learned us, common is common. I can't expect carcinoid or neuroendocrine tumor before celiac disease, let's say, or before Crohn's, never ever. This is not the case. Why neuroendocrine tumor diagnosis is so crucial? Simply, 50% of those type of tumors between the GI clinician's hands. But those symptoms of those type of tumors are very common, non-specific. So it makes a little bit difficult to early diagnose those patients. Secondly, the diagnosis period takes up to 10 years. 10 years. You can imagine your patient labeled as IBS or Crohn's, and suddenly at the end you find it's neuroendocrine tumor after 10 years maybe. 40% of those patients
at the right time of diagnosis are metastasized, and 2/3 of those patients die within 5 years. So this is a crucial to early detect those type of neuroendocrine tumors. I will tell you I will be very frank, I drafted this slide. No reference for this slide, but what I did during my discussion with our colleague from other gastroenterology in Jeddah, he told me how can I guess a patient with neuroendocrine tumor? If we have a patient, and correct me, I need your experience here in this slide. If we have a patient with nocturnal watery diarrhea, nocturnal resistant watery diarrhea for more than 4 weeks, and you went through all the workup, and you did colonoscopy to rule out IBD, and still after all this, patients are free, but still complaining from nocturnal watery diarrhea, and you did upper endoscopy, and still free. I had HIV. Yeah, okay. So, what I want, please think in neuroendocrine tumor after all this workup, and the result is free. This is one of types of our patient today. What's about the second patient? The second patient is a patient with abdominal pain, younger than 45 years old, and it's symptomatic. Why? This is older, yeah. Sorry. Older than 40 years old, and you did abdominal ultrasound, hemoglobin is low, blood stool is free, loss of weight is very characteristic, and still colonoscopy free, upper, lower free. Do you agree with me that at this stage we should think in neuroendocrine tumor?
At this stage, there is like a flag side. This is important. We have hemoglobin and weight loss. This is significant. We cannot live with much IBS. You have to keep hard and hard. So
Okay.
this is different scenarios. Usually IBS actually they don't lose weight, but they gain weight in fact.
Okay.
And normal. So that does not fit with the criteria of IBS.
So, Dr. Mashal, you mean that if we have here loss of weight, we should think definitely far away from IBS?
If you look for pathology, it's not like
Could be,
And if you allow me also to add, since there is a hemoglobin issue plus weight issue, I would put a biopsy of the body just to see why is the patient is without blood in the stool, why he's not absorbing.
Okay, may I ask you, from where you will get biopsy?
From body.
Didn't. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
What
sir.
I'm saying is he has genuine symptoms and signs like this. They will not label him IBS. You have to think have another reason for that. So, if you find genuine or red flag signs like low hemoglobin, weight loss, you should think hard and look for a reason. But for example, we almost like 40-50% of our patients our patient is IBS. And they have, there is no red flag sign. We don't go farther actually for investigation. They have no weight loss, no persistence, no nocturnal symptoms. You don't have to dig farther actually. You don't need to do colonoscopy, you don't need to do all of things. But if you have this is different scenario. You have significant symptoms or sign, then it's different scenario. It's not IBS.
As a physician, you depend not only the criteria. We have for IBS the wrong criteria. So once it's not fit with their own criteria and the whole lab is not fit, then you dig more in the pathology rather than stay with the patient IBS. Oh yeah, I know that IBS is common. And also any IBS now we do celiac profile because 25% of the people with IBS they have an underlying gluten sensitive.
Okay, thank you so much. I may ask you, sir, if we have a patient with IBS with diarrhea, and we did all those workup and still the patient free, shall we investigate more? It might be neuroendocrine tumor or not? Are you agree with me or not?
Yes, definitely.
It depends.
care, we need to do thyroid function test for those research.
Depends.
HIV, I think the case was actually very, very important to elaborate what the role of HIV infections, thyroid function tests, and microscopic colitis. There is a great entity called microscopic colitis. You don't see anything by colonoscopy, but if you biopsy, you see either collagen or lymphocytes. So still we need maybe common things that could come. So we need to roll out other things that if it's negative and not think of any tumor. Especially if there is flushing, there's weight loss, if there is something to suggest that maybe it's too late at that point.
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much. What do you think if the patient is younger than 40 years old, 45 years old, and it's symptomatic, and still CT scan is free? Can we expect neuroendocrine tumor, or at this stage we can expect something else?
Neuroendocrine usually the small ones, sometimes they don't really show up.
Down the list, not really in the
Yes.
You put the neuroendocrine as a differential, again, we can then speed
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Mashal. And this is what we don't want to do.
Sure.
Yani, please, I urge every one of you just to exclude all the comments, and then with the patient, still symptomatic functioning patient, complaining from nocturnal persistent watery diarrhea, not responding to a treatment, or very abdominal pain, not relieved easily, and still no logic for you as a clinician that why this patient is still complaining, then roll out all the comments and then think in neuroendocrine tumor. This is our message.
And that's basically type of diarrhea.
Yes.
So the stool whose molar diarrhea is very small.
Yes.
So we have to check the stool, so we'll ask the patient if it's improving with fasting or not. Usually this is improving with fasting.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Fat. What we did as an Novartis, we searched, we navigated across the kingdom, and we found that how we can make cheap tool for screening for highly suspected patient can be affordable for everyone and for every hospital. And we found that the most reliable biomarker for neuroendocrine tumors, thank you so much, is the chromogranin A. Chromogranin A is protein secreted by neuroendocrine tumor cells. Almost with 99% of those type of cell secretion, hyper secrete those type of proteins in the bloodstream. So rarely, very rare to find a neuroendocrine tumor patient without elevation of those type of proteins. The sensitivity and specificity of chromogranin A is a little bit gray area, to be frank with you. But if we find that this type of neuroendocrine tumor are the most reliable marker for those type are chromogranin A, it's not, you can't depend only on chromogranin A, but you can depend on chromogranin A, 5-HIAA, with your imaging test, CT scan, with your PET scan if you're hospital affordable for PET scan, and so, and complete workup. But if you want, if you have a highly suspected cases, you rolled out all the common conditions, and you need a direction, it might be neuroendocrine tumor or not, scan, test your patient with chromogranin A. If it's elevated, continue in the track of neuroendocrine tumor. The biomarker, all biomarker has limitations. What is the limitation of chromogranin A? Chromogranin A is elevated by inflammation, is elevated by if your patient took octreotide for, let's say, previous GI bleeding, it may interfere with lower negative results for chromogranin A. So please, if your patient also are on PPIs, stop your PPI for 1 month before sending your patient to test chromogranin A, unless you will get false positive results. 4 weeks. Stop the patient on PPI for 4 weeks and then send it to do chromogranin A. Conclusion, over 90% of all carcinoid neuroendocrine tumors are incorrectly diagnosed with other disease. And frankly, you are the champions for those type of tumors because you are seeing persistent uncontrolled abdominal pain, vague nocturnal watery diarrhea, bleeding, vomiting, flushing, weight loss. And I think that those couple of cases today addressed a little bit those kind of symptoms. Chromogranin is the most reliable biomarker available. I know it's not available for all hospitals, and we are available, make it available for every patient for free. Maybe it might be available in National Guard, King Faisal, but it's not available for MOH, but we make it available for free for your patient. You might receive on the counter of Novartis voucher for Chromogranin A. Just what you all want to do, type your patient name at the first part and split the couple of other parts, give it to your patient. Your patient will go to Ma'amil al-Burq. We have 20 branches across the kingdom. They will take blood sample, send it to Germany, come back with the result after 3 weeks without paying 1 riyal. We covering this for free for your patient, just for screening and reach more and more and more patients for Chromogranin, for neuroendocrine tumor. The third point, specificity and sensitivity of Chromogranin A, you can rely on it, but you can't confirm the diagnosis of Chromogranin A only. Yeah. Thank you so much. This is my presentation.
Any questions? No questions? Okay. One announcement, and please, there is a meeting next week from Fering. It's going to be presented by Professor Sergio Dennis from Italy. It's going to be in the 7th or? Is it in the 7th? The crowd is actually going to be, inshallah, next week, Sunday. But here they put it actually at 8:30 p.m. It's about IBD. Last thing is we have, as usual, certificate for the speakers. Dr. Abdullah Haid. Thank you so much for this today. Thank you so much for sponsoring the event. We are ready. Thank you.